Welcome in, everybody, to Load the Box. We're small this week, and also there's no Will. And Will has such a presence on this show, to replace him, I had to find two people to come in and fill the giant Goodwin shoes that he leaves. Will is dealing with some family stuff tonight, but I received maybe the best text of my entire 2024 on New Year's Eve, and that was Dustin Baker saying, "Hey, did you guys forget about me?" And we were like, "Oh my God, we did forget about you, Dustin."
I think I asked if I was banned.
That's
Did
what
I
it was.
get banned for my 7 and 10 take? And it was like, whoa, no, you're not banned.
You know, I bust Will up all the time because, we do like a game prediction and we kind of track who's done better in that. And before the season, Will said the Vikings were going to win 6 or 7 games as well. It was not, he was not heading the. I said 10 and a playoff game. I was super optimistic with that. But Will has picked. Let me pull up the spreadsheet just that way I don't lie. Will has picked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All but 2 games to be wins this year. And I'm like, that's kind of hedging your bets a little bit, isn't it? To say,
Yeah,
we're only going to win
wild.
7 games. But no, obviously the data changed. The team looks good. And I'm joined by Dustin Baker of Vikes Now. Also, Janik, pardon me if I butcher this name, because I already can't pronounce it correctly because the way that I speak. But Janik Eckardt?
That's pretty good.
All right. Also,
We'll take
Vikes Now. Also, the boss man over at Purple PTSD and VikingsTerritory.com. Appreciate all that you guys do. And you guys are two, in my opinion, respected members of Vikings internet media, if you will. And I'm very excited to get to talk to you about this Green Bay game, because this Green Bay game was almost identical to the last Green Bay game. Mm-hmm. The Vikings whooped their asses for 45 minutes, and then it all came crumbling down, and everybody almost had heart attacks, and we win by 2. The exact same script, we just had a slightly bigger lead in the first matchup as opposed to the second one. Janik, let's start up with you, and I'm going to call you Giannis at some point tonight. I want you to know that, because it almost happened there, because I'm starting to slowly shift into basketball mode. But Janik, I want your opinion. How much should Vikings fans read into the collapses at the end of these games, or should we be optimistic and just focus on the big leads that they built?
We can't completely forget about them. It's part of the game, but we also shouldn't over focus on the fourth quarter. The Vikings were so good in the first 3 quarters, and like you said, whooped their asses and scored 10 unanswered points in last drive in the second quarter and in the first drive of the third quarter. So it just happens. Green Bay is a playoff team, and they are a good football team, and good football teams can go on runs. They went on the run in part because Darnold threw that pick in his own field goal range. And yeah, just went on the run, and it's totally fine. At the end of the day, Vikings won. They look good for the most part, and something we can build on.
Yeah, Dustin, what do you think? Are you focusing more on the positive of having a 17-point lead against an 11-win team, or are you focusing more on the only winning that game by 2?
No, I don't give a damn that they only won by 2, and I have 2 reasons for it. Green Bay did not play shitty at all, and normally if you're going to blow out a team, you have to force a bunch of turnovers. And Green Bay, I was telling Janik, we were sitting right next to each other at the game. I told him, this is impressive that we're up by this much, and Green Bay isn't, handing us the ball over and over and over. They're not stifled by continuous 3 and outs. They don't look sloppy. So they didn't play a poor game, and the Vikings still managed to build that lead and hold them off after a run. The way that I rationalize this, if you need some copium for why was it so close at the end, is you know how we usually, or when I used to come on your show, when we talk about Soldier Field, we're kind of you take a win any way you can get it there, because things always get a little strange and it's sloppy and weird. Anytime you can beat the Packers, and especially when they're good, another 11-win team, you don't waste your time complaining that it got close at the end. This is the way that the rivalry goes. If you want to bitch about close games, go cheer for the Chiefs. They got plenty for you. So I've shed a lot of my past Vikings themed demons. Oh my God, they're gonna screw this up. For the most part this season, and I wasn't so negative Nelly about the fourth quarter of this game because I just kind of expected Green Bay to make their run, and it was whether or not the Vikings could respond. And when they came back, what was it? Green Bay scored, and then they marched with that sweet drive, and I think Addison scored the touchdown. That was one of the most impressive moments of the recent last decade for the Vikings because that would have been a classic moment where, 3 and out. No, now it's really sliding away. So I want to give the Vikings all of their flowers for this game. Sometimes you just got to win by 2, and it just happened to be against the Packers, and everybody on this show will take it.
Let's keep playing this. I'll voice my opinion on it. My opinion. I'll do it right now. I agree with what you guys are saying. I think that it is impressive to be up 3 possessions on any team in the National Football League, let alone what I believe is going to end up being a 12-win team that might get them the 7 seed somehow because the NFC has just been really good this season, specifically the division they play in, where it's going to be, a 13-win wild card team after Sunday night's matchup, which we'll talk about a little later. But let's keep playing this let's go to the final drive, right? The ice in the veins, really clutch Cam Akers catch to put the game away. I think Kevin O'Connell said it perfectly when he said ball game because it was a dagger shot. Janik, going back to you, are you impressed with Kevin O'Connell's stones? I don't know what we want to call them. This is a family show, but are you impressed with his guts, his moxie to say, what, the strength of this team is the pass game, and the Packers are going to sell out to stop the run. Let's throw the ball here, and he threw it a few times on that drive. Are you a little disappointed that the Vikings don't have that Baltimore, Philadelphia, hey, F you, we're going to run the ball. We know we're going to run the ball. We'll tell you where we're going to run the ball. We're just going to out-physical you and get 7 yards, on this run because we're big, badass Vikings, So is there any disappointment there, or are you just happy that O'Connell had the balls to call the plays the way he did?
There's absolutely no disappointment because we know we don't have the offensive line to just bully an opponent. But on the other hand, I don't think they have the quarterbacks to throw in clutch situations like we do. I think Sam Darnold has shown that he can be trusted in clutch situations, and our passing game is our strength. So why not pass it? And I would have been mad at O'Connell if he just ran it 3 times right into a defensive line, just waiting on it, and that punt and that the defense handle it. That would have sucked. And instead, they called somewhat high percentage passes, and it worked out perfectly. 2 wide open guys. The pass to Jefferson was, it's Justin Jefferson. You probably don't want to throw that to Brenton Powell, but Jefferson comes down with it. We know that. So it's just perfect. It's the identity of the team. So why not throw it?
Love that answer. Dustin, what about you? Will you do you want to see this team maybe this is more of a off-season talk, or would you like to see this team be able to say F it, we're running the ball in those situations, or are you okay just get the first downs and in the game you don't care one way or the other?
I want them to be able to have the offensive line and running back consistency in general, but I have come to expect that this is how Kevin O'Connell does things. We spent at least 8 years with jealousy watching Chiefs and Rams games when they would do exactly what the Vikings did on the final drive and pass to be aggressive to win. We spent at least 8 to 10 years watching that thinking, God, why can't we ever do that? We finally do it. This is what Kevin O'Connell does. Janik and I talk about this frequently. There's a lot of people that bitch about 3rd and 1. Oh, O'Connell's going to throw it. He's not going to run it. Oh, there he is. He's in shotgun. We're going to throw it. This is just the way Kevin O'Connell is. This is the way he coaches. He's a former quarterback. He's always going to want to pass. So you just kind of have to accept that. And usually it works. So I don't know why we would have a major grievance. When it comes to icing the game, not letting Green Bay get the ball back with 3 2-yard gains and a punt, I loved it. I mean, this is what the Chiefs do. It's what Sean McVay does, and I hope they do it again this Sunday. There's no reason, even though this defense is the best in the league per EPA per play, there's no reason to give your primary foe the ball back and hope for the best. Now, if you're playing some asshole team like the Jaguars, you might be able to get away with that. But if you have a quarterback like we think Jordan Love can probably go down the field and however long it would have been, no, you go take the ball out of their hands, keep the rock in yours, pass for the first down, and it all worked out beautifully.
Yeah, I think that pointing out the team that you are going against is important. It's not Mac Jones on the other sideline, waiting to just begging you, like, let me come out here and throw an interception. Like, you're talking about Jordan Love, who at that point decided, oh, yeah, I'm good at football, I forgot. Like, it's like these Vikings games were microcosms for his season, because he really, both years that he started, he's played not great from like half the season, a little over half the season, and then week 12 rolls around and he's like, it's time to look like the second best QB in the league, and he just starts slinging the pill. So yeah, man, I like your point about this is what KC, this is what the Rams, McVay, all these wunderkind coaches do, and I think O'Connell slowly, it's almost like what is it? It's almost like ripping fingernails. Is that what the saying is? I don't know. I can't remember what it is. But slowly the national media is starting to be like, you guys see what's going on up there? I know Minnesota's kind of the attic of the United States. It's like, we don't get a ton of national media attention, but the national media is starting to be like, hey, O'Connell's really good. And he's got, his bag is about as deep as it gets. I think him and Ben Johnson are two of the, creative and good, let's just call it that, offensive coaches in the league or run those types of offenses. So for him to say, yeah, let me go into the bag and pull out what I can find, I'm A-okay with it. Let's see. Let's go to Will. Will is here with us in spirit. Will wrote the outline for the show to peel the thing away. Let's just talk about this game in general without me having to prompt you guys with a this or that type question. We'll flip the order this time. We'll go Dustin then Janik. Dustin, what was your big takeaway from the Packers game? Did you watch it? Did you have a narrative that was confirmed going in? Like you had a thought about this team that got confirmed in this game? Did this team prove anything to you? What was your big takeaway from it?
My big narrative might be a broken record. I'm not sure if you guys have gone over this on your show in the last month. Going into the Seattle game and then going into the Green Bay game, those were two typical games as recently as last year that I would have been like, shit, they're probably going to lose, aren't they? And going into Seattle, I did not have those demons in my stomach, and they went out and won. They played an epic fourth quarter, a fantastic pitch and catch from Darnold to Jefferson. And that would have been a game any other year in the last at least decade, probably longer. I'd be like, going to Seattle, that's going to be a big fat L. Why I'm saying this is that for me, and I think for a lot of the fan base, through Kevin O'Connell, we have had a deconstruction of norms where we don't necessarily have to expect the worst. Like that drive when Green Bay started marching back, of course you consider, like, oh my gosh, are they really going to blow this? But you don't necessarily expect it this season. And this is vital because anytime the Vikings would go on the road, especially on natural grass or in the late afternoon window or prime time, you're like, we can't beat those teams or we can't play in that type of situation. That's going to be a loss. At least we'll win at noon next week. And I don't feel that anymore. So going into Green Bay, driving up there, I was more excited. And there was a little bit of nervousness because we could have this home field advantage, but that's just normal football watching nervous. I would have that watching LeBron in the NBA Finals, even though I expected him to win. So through their actions, I have begun to not fear the worst. I've been asked before on Vikings podcast, what's the worst part of being a Vikings fan? And my answer is always simple. It's thinking the worst case scenario and then that bitch playing out right in front of you. Like real time, you just saw it in the back of your brain and there it is. I don't have, like, this doesn't mean that the Vikings are definitely going to beat the Lions and, hey, this is the year they win the Super Bowl. But going forward under Kevin O'Connell, we don't have to look at a schedule, look at a situation, and think, oh, this guy's going to miss the kick because this is what the Vikings always do. I feel like we have turned the corner into one of those franchises that's trusted to beat teams with winning records. The whole Monday night narrative is gone. Like, the Vikings are actually good in prime time now. So as we ventured up the 4-hour drive to the Vikings versus the Packers, I felt great. I was like, this team is talented to win. If they lose, it's not the end of the world. But I expect them to win, and they did.
Yeah, and the line in that game was funny, too, because I feel like when I first looked at it, the Packers were like 2-point favorites, like 1.5 favorites. And then I remember hearing people talk about, like, oh, the Vikings are underdogs at home to Green Bay. This is crazy, blah, blah, blah. And then, like, at kickoff, they're like, the Vikings are 2-point home favorites. And I'm like, wait a minute, how the hell did that happen in, 5 days? I guess a lot of money came in on the Vikings, and I guess a lot of people made money on the Vikings. But, Janik, let's go to you. Any narratives that you had, any preconceived notions that were put to bed during this game? Like, just what stood out to you in this one?
So for me, it was the first must-win game we've had in a while. Probably since the playoff game in January 2023. First playoff-like game, because now we have the chance to win the division and get the first seed. And the Vikings took care of business. They didn't go there and got blown out, lost 35-3 or something. They took care of business. Unlike last year against Green Bay and in the same week, I think. It's just they seem to be ready for playoff football, and yeah, that's what my biggest takeaway is.
How do you think? And this is I'm just gonna try and pry this out of you. How do you think this team? Like you said, they're ready for playoff football, and obviously these last 2 weeks have felt very playoffs, right? 11 or 12 win Green Bay team, 11 wins at the time. Seattle team that is actually fighting for its life, like just throwing haymakers at you. How do you think this team will look come, wild card or divisional round, whether that be against Tampa Bay, Los Angeles? How do you think they will look come playoff time? Do you expect to see any difference, or do you just expect to be like stone cold assassins the way that they have been these last 2 weeks?
I think they will look just the same. They are a great coach team. You have O'Connell and Flores, and I think you can make the argument they are top 5, top 3, whatever coaches on their side of the ball. It's an experienced football team. Although it feels like a young new team, but you have Harrison Smith, you have guys like Gilmore who have seen it all, and it's actually the oldest team in the NFL if you wait by snaps. So it's an experienced team, it's a well-coached team, it's a balanced team. You have offense and defense looking good. Can run the ball. They can actually run the ball, unlike last year. They can pass the ball. They can stop the run. They can stop the pass. It's such a well-rounded team that I don't foresee them to completely fall apart at any point in the playoffs.
I like it. Dustin, I'll pose the same question to you. I'll tweak it a little bit. And this is I hate this question because, like, I think I know the answer. The answer is almost a technicality, but, like, let me ask it in a very pointed way. Do you think the Vikings are going to win the Super Bowl? Not can they win the Super Bowl, but, like, do you think that's the destiny of this season, just the way they've looked all year?
No, I do not think the Vikings are going to win the Super Bowl, and I actually think they're going to lose on Sunday by a field goal because the Lions have home field advantage for that particular game. I've tried to think about how this season is different than our most recent really successful season in 2017, and although I think this team is on par with that one, in 2017 there weren't humongous dragons to slay in the postseason. There was in the Eagles ultimately, but we didn't know that about this time last year because they were rolling with Nick Foles, and we all kind of smirked and were like, yeah, right. And then the Saints were good, but they were kind of winding down their run. This year, you have the Lions, who have been we've been talked to death about how good they are, even though they're injury riddled. They're when they're healthy, their roster is close to flawless. And then the Eagles they still have these trenches, offense and defense, that are just built in a lab. So I don't think it's likely that the Vikings will beat one of those teams when it's all in the line to go to the Super Bowl. But I'm the same guy that was kind of saying this shit, like, back in November. Like, I don't think they're quite good enough to win a Super Bowl, and they haven't lost since then. So I'm at a point of accepting, like, maybe they will. The argument that I keep telling myself is the Vikings probably won't win their first Super Bowl when we have this weight of expectation. When you have Brett Favre 2009 or 1998 team that had the greatest offense ever at the time. We know that we collapse in those moments, or at least they did in the past. If the Vikings are going to win a Super Bowl, it's probably going to be a scenario like this where we're like, really, this is the team that's going to do it? So I will use that for my hope. But no, if I had to go put $5,000 of my own money on it, I would bet against the Vikings to win the Super Bowl, even though I'd certainly just not do that proactively.
Yeah. I think it's the reason I hate that question is because it's like, well, yes, any team that makes the playoff, especially like a team that's won this many games, is gonna be capable of going anyway. Like they went to Seattle, which I know Seattle is not going to be a playoff team. They're eliminated, but like they went to Seattle, which is a playoff caliber team in their house. They win that game. They get knocked down, get back up. They've shown. I don't know why I'm glitching out so bad. Let me try killing the camera for a second. They've shown throughout this season that they are capable of tackling adversity and standing back up and coming out better because of it. But Janik, I want to get your take on it as well, and I'm sorry to just spring this on you guys because this is a conversation I wanted to get from you whenever I had the chance. But I think that this team, like I think they should be the favorites to win the NFC, and I know this Sunday will go a long way in determining who wins the NFC. But I think that the Lions' defense is gonna bite them, and look, man, I love the Niners, but they are not healthy. They are a very banged up team. They're missing, arguably their best wide receiver. Their gadgety skill guy in Debo is, he looked back to, being peak Debo again, even though he's looked kind of rough. I think they're on like their 7th string running back, if that serves correctly. Like Jordan Mason's down, McCaffrey's down, like that, and Brock Purdy's looked terrible this season. So all of that being said, they were out there just in a shootout with Detroit. So I think someone will get Detroit. And then Philly, I think, poses the biggest threat. But I think the Vikings right now, if I had to set the odds, I would set the Vikings as a slight favorite to win the NFC. What scares me the most is the Chiefs, personally, just because it does feel like they are inevitable. Like, it doesn't matter how, down they look, how, oh my gosh, Vegas has the ball about to score a touchdown, and their center just snaps it for no reason, and they pick the ball up, and that's the end of the game. The refs just say, hey, that's ball game. Sorry, guys. So that kind of scares me, them going on that three-peat. They seem like a team on a mission, but I don't know. It's a little too bold for a Vikings fan to say the only thing that scares me about not winning the Super Bowl is the other conference, who we'd have to beat in the Super Bowl. So, I don't know. I like what this team's built of. Janik, what do you think? The Vikings, the Super Bowl, do you think they'll get there? Do you think they have the stuff to get there?
So first of all, I would never bet on a football team to win a Super Bowl because it's always an outside chance to win it. Even the best teams in the league have maybe a 10% chance. So I wouldn't bet on the Vikings to reach the Super Bowl. However, they are, like I said, they are a balanced team. They are a well-coached team, and those teams can win a Super Bowl. Your take on the NFC? I actually, outside of the NFC South winner, whoever that is, Atlanta or Tampa Bay, I feel like everyone could go on a run in the playoffs. Would anyone be shocked if the Packers suddenly start winning against good teams?
Right.
And Jordan Love throwing dimes all over the field, or like Washington has looked good and all year, so, and the Eagles are obviously absolute juggernaut. It looks like Saquon and Hurts and his downfield passing. So it's gonna be a really hard to predict. It's gonna be really hard to predict the playoff outcome in the NFC. I feel like. But, I mean, it's gonna be fun for sure.
It is nice that if it is as stacked as we all think it is in the NFC, it is nice that if it's a raffle, it feels like the Eagles probably have like 3 tickets in the raffle. Everybody else has 1. I think Detroit's defensive injuries have made them remove a couple of theirs, so they're down to just having a single ticket. I would say the Vikings have 2 or 3 as well. I think the Vikings, like, I hate this, like, oh, the Eagles look like such a juggernaut, and it's like, the Vikings haven't lost since, like, well before Donald Trump was president. Like, or president-elect. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking long ago. Like, think of how long ago the election feels. It was like a month before that was when they lost to the Rams on a short week. So, to me, for some reason, that sticks out. It feels like it was 2 decades ago that this team lost a game. And maybe that's a bad thing. Maybe, when it does happen, they're going to wait. They're going to win on Sunday, and then they're going to go and just pee down their legs in the divisional round or something. But that kind of plays into Dustin's, hey, I think everybody has kind of been like, every Vikings fan is trying to like win the NFL. This is my bit on the NFL. If the NFL is scripted, they have bad writers because they keep doing the same gag over and over again, where the Vikings fan gets their hopes up and then they get kicked in the nuts. Like, it's just over and over and over again. So I think all Vikings fans are bracing for that and they live in constant fear of it. But I don't know. Maybe this is the year where, what's her name, like Susie or whatever, holds the ball down, and Charlie Brown finally gets a chance to kick the field goal. And we'll see if Will Wyckoff makes it. But all right, boys, let's shift now. Let's shift over to Detroit. I am excited about this game. I think everyone is excited about this game. I want to just really quickly: is this the biggest regular season game the Vikings have ever played?
Yes, because you have to tell me what is more substantial on the line. Comparatively, nobody gives a shit about getting into the wild card round and, hey, we're 8-7, we win this, we get to go play the blah blah blahs on the road. Like, that's important, but it's not as important as this. You get a free playoff win if you win this game. And statistics show most of the teams that get to the Super Bowl and win the damn thing have a road that at least partially goes through their stadium. Well, the Vikings can ensure the whole damn thing goes to US Bank Stadium. Certainly in my lifetime, I told Janik, like, outside of something in the 70s that I wasn't around for, I can't think of a playoff or a regular season game that was this important. I mean, there have been crucial ones like Kevin O'Connell's first game against the Packers opener against, or week 2, 2016, the first game at US Bank Stadium. There have been symbolic important ones, but for even in 98, we wrapped that bitch up in September. That's what it felt like. Everybody knew it's like immediately that this Viking. We didn't even think about losing that season. It was so weird. Like every week, it was like, let's see if they score 60, boys. So there was never an element of suspense in that season. And the 2009 Vikings, I think, dropped 4 games, and those always felt like heartbreakers. But this one is for all the marbles. If you think the Vikings can win the Super Bowl, they probably have to win this game on Sunday night. Yeah, they could be road warriors and get there through the 5th seed, or have the other 6th and 7th seed teams win, so you eventually play a game. But that's all probably just hearsay, like, yeah, well, this is our best laid plans. So, it is the most important regular season game of my lifetime, and I think in Vikings history, because you get your free playoff win, you get to rest up, and the entire shebang goes through your building. I don't think that there's anything comparable in the regular season.
Janik, what's your take on it? Biggest of all time, or can you think of an example that proves me and Dustin wrong?
Oh, absolutely biggest. We were walking out of the stadium, and I turned to Dustin and asked him, "Is this the biggest regular season game ever?" Like, I don't even know if there's a comparable game in like in NFL history, not even like in Vikings history, because the stakes couldn't be any higher. It's home game, it's a bye week, it's everything. It's like an easier opponent, at least per seed. So I don't know if the scenario could be could have any higher stakes.
I think the only, like, I think that the argument could be made that, like, maybe, what year was it? Was it like 02 or 03 against Arizona, when, like, the push out and Josh McCown or Luke McCown, one of the McCowns, like, pushed us out of the playoffs or whatever it was. Like, that, I was young for that. I don't remember that. But, like, those types of games, maybe people could be like, well, that was win or go home. And it's like, well, now you're just talking about playoff games. Like, that's basically just a playoff game at that point, versus this is just the magnitude. It feels like I like Paul Tyson. You know what it feels like? It feels like McGregor Mayweather is what it just feels like. 2 titans duking it out. And ultimately, like, yes, it matters tremendously. But, like, both teams are going to play another game this season. Like, both teams are guaranteed another game after this one. So it's not like winner goes home. But I agree with you guys. It's going to be huge. Janik, let's start with you. What do the Vikings need to do on the offensive side of the ball to win this game? What matchup do they need to take advantage of? What key, is there to victory? Just what do they need? What does the offense need to do to win this game?
Well, this might sound really dumb. They need to score points. It's what it is. We've all seen Detroit on Monday. They look awful on defense, but the offense is great. So you need to score points to take the lead. You might need to score 40 because that offense looks almost unstoppable. So what do you need to do? You need to throw the ball to Justin Jefferson. He's going off in Detroit every single time. He's averaging 182 yards there per game.
Oh my God,
it's unbelievable. And they even robbed him of that. What was it, like a 60-yard touchdown or something when they said he stepped out of bounds? So it could have been even higher. They need to score. They need to score points, and for that they need to gain yards, and you do that by throwing the ball. Detroit. You've seen the defense. They don't really have a pass rush. You need, of course, Zadarius Smith. You know him. He's capable of getting a sack. He's also capable of wrecking a game. But if you move the game plan, if you move the offensive line his way, he's probably not gonna wreck the game. And their coverage players are rookie Terrion Arnold and outside of the safeties, like street free agents. So you should be able to move the ball against them.
Yeah, I'm curious, and Janik, I want to ask you this, because I've seen it posed, the Vikings, because of how good Detroit's offense is, the Vikings should try and do the old, it's like the old, how do you beat the Chiefs? You don't let them touch the ball. And so, do you think that this could turn into a scenario where the Vikings try and just Cam Akers and Aaron Jones all day long, run for 210 combined yards between the two of them, and dominate the time of possession in such a way where it manufactures the score be a lot closer to like 20-16 than it does 52-50? Like, could you see it playing out that way? And does that lean advantage Vikings, or does it not matter? Do you think Detroit's going to put up 30 plus every week no matter what?
I don't see the Vikings running the ball as like more than usual. Maybe they get a lead and that's why they run. But we've talked about it. It's the identity of the team to let Darnold drop back and to throw it vertical to Jefferson, to Addison, to find Hawkinson in the middle of the field. That's what the Vikings do. That's what O'Connell is calling. That's what has brought the success this year, so why change anything?
Yeah, I do think, and if you look back at like the first Packers game, even the Jets game a little bit, I think Kevin O'Connell very aware of narratives around his team and like very aware of like, hey, Aaron Jones is playing the Packers. We want him to get in the end zone to go do the Lambeau leap. Or like, hey, I played for the Jets. Sam played for the Jets. We're going to throw the ball on the Jets. We're going to just attack them through the air. And Aaron Jones went out in that game, so that might be unfair. But this is one of those games where it's like, if Sam Darnold throws 5 touchdowns, there's going to be a lot of talk about him winning the MVP. Like, if he gets to 30 and he has all the yards and he has a 15-win season, like, there's going to be a lot of talk about him being an MVP candidate. And I think O'Connell knows that, so it wouldn't shock me to see him come out and just be like, no, I'm going to try and get Sam 6 or 7 touchdowns today. And, not that would be in the detriment of the team, but, if you can run the ball, run the ball. I mean, I'm not opposed to it. But Dustin, what do you think offensively? Do you see Jefferson going off, or do you think Detroit's just going to say, you know what, 5 guys on Jefferson, throw it to anybody else, but we can't let him get what was the 180 yards or whatever his average is?
I think that they'll give him more attention than we're used to from them. Because they're so banged up on defense, they might have to try that strategy. I think there's 2 keys to winning the game, but the first thing I want to mention is none of my keys are Sam Darnold personally. That's how much of a comfort level I've established with him. I don't need to call out that he needs to play well because he always plays pretty well. It's weird. I think the national media is kind of where everybody on this show was at about week 7, when we're wondering, is he going to keep doing this? I think that's where the national media is right now. For me, I know he's going to play well. When's the last time you previewed a Golden State Warriors game and said, well, the Warriors can win this if Steph Curry hits his free throws? No, nobody says that because they know he's going to do it. I know Sam Darnold's going to play pretty well. Even in clutch situations, I've stopped worrying about that because we know he's going to show up. So my 2 keys on offense are going to make me sound like a boomer. It is run the football efficiently. Even if you get stopped in the first drive and you got to go 3 and out, you can't abandon that because that is how Vikings football gets really one-dimensional, and O'Connell tends to get in that tendency at the first sign of adversity. You could ask the Alexander Madison team all about it last year. So I want them, they've done a really good job about this year. Even when they're not cooking on the ground, they keep doing it to keep the secondary honest. So run the football somewhat efficiently. Don't end up where, hey, Aaron Jones had 6 carries for 25 yards. We don't want that at the end of the game, at 10:30 p.m. Sunday night. And my other one is no turnovers. You may have noticed in the last month, the Vikings have turned into a team that we've always worshipped, that gets hot at exactly the right time. Well, that's because they're playing complementary football. Normally, there's always one thing that's wrong with the Vikings, and we're like, if they just did this, then we could cook. If they just did that, then this would be better. Everything has come together in the last month because they stopped turning the ball over on offense. We got rid of that stupid-ass obligatory fumble in the first quarter that we had all last season and that reared its ugly head a couple times. So this can't be the game where they start getting back to their fumble demons. I don't even care if Darnold throws an interception. That's just kind of to be expected sometimes. And I told Janik, whenever it is, we have that sweet streak going of we have a takeaway every single game. I bet you whenever the Vikings season ends, it's going to be the game where they didn't get their takeaway. So this is a long way of saying win the turnover battle, but it's mostly protect the football because O'Connell has that. I don't even know what the glorious stat is updated now, but when he wins or breaks even in the turnover battle, it's obscene how good his team is in win percentage.
Yeah, he's like 601, I think. like I think the one might have been the Detroit game this season, if my memory serves correct. But I think it's just one loss when that happens, or maybe it was the Rams game. It happened this year, but yeah, I agree with you. I think tropes become tropes for a reason. It's because they work. I think the trope of don't turn the ball over. Yeah, man. If the Niners win a shootout until they let Kobe Joseph take the game over on defense and get 2 picks, and then all of a sudden it's like, crap, you can't give that offense extra possessions. So if you're gonna get into a shootout with them, as long as like you said, Sam, if he's big game hunting all night, he's going to throw a pick, maybe 2. But the defense has to respond in kind and force a couple of turnovers. And Sam also, if he doesn't throw a pick or when he's not throwing that pick, he does have to be on. But like you said, we just kind of expect Sam is going to play well. I've been saying he's playing like prime Ben Roethlisberger because I hate. It might have been me, but somebody started saying he was like Josh Allen, like diet Josh Allen, and I was like, he never runs the ball. Like he does occasionally scramble, but he never designed So I hate that comp. I think Big Ben is the guy because he just stands in there. He's taller than everybody, and he just needs to gain 25 pounds, and he might even start looking like him. But let's flip it over. Let's talk about the Vikings defense. Really good Vikings defense. But man, when they go up against a team that's this hot on offense, this team knows that, talking about the Lions, they know they have to win games by running it up and by going absolutely crazy. Ben Johnson has been calling trick plays in every game this season. It wouldn't shock me if he has 2 or 3 lined up for the Vikings this week. What can Brian Flores do? You can't rush foul because you won't get home. You can't blitz because they pick it up and you won't get home. How do they get a pressure on this guy? How do they knock Jared Goff off his mouth, if you will? We'll start with you, Janik.
The key for stopping Detroit is to stop the run. Or it's like the key in every game, but it's especially against run-first teams like Detroit. They love to run the ball, and sometimes they just run it 8 times in a row, and they don't care. It's working, so why stop? And the Vikings have done a really good job at limiting opposing run games. They held Bijan Robinson in check. They've held Josh Jacobs in check last week. They always come out of the game with like 4 yards per carry. That's fine, and that's what the Vikings need to do again. And then you get Detroit in third and longs, and if you get them in third and 12, they've converted a ton of them against us in the first meeting, but at some point they're gonna throw an incompletion. Maybe Goff forces one into a tight window, and suddenly there's Cam Bynum and celebrating in the end zone. So that's you need to get them in third and long, and you do that by stopping the run.
I'm trying to think if Cam Bynum or Josh Metellus ends up, getting a turnover, being involved in it. I want to know what the next Disney movie they're going to do is. I would love to see them. I don't remember what it was called. Delaney, you can help me with this. What was the movie where they jump roped? Jump In. There was a movie called Jump In where the guy from High School Musical, like the secondary male lead, his dad wants him to box. He's a really good boxer, but he wants to jump rope. So I would love to see them, like Terrell Owens, hide a jump rope somewhere and then start jumping rope. I think that would be fun. It's going to be something Disney. Apparently, it's just turned into a Disney movie celebration every week. Mm-hmm. But Dustin, what do you think? I know stopping the run is important. I'm really curious. Maybe I'm asking too much because I can't come up with an answer here. How do they get pressure on Jared Goff? This line is impenetrable. I mean, it is Felt Knox, man. We blitz, they pick it up. We bring foul, don't even sniff Goff. I mean, what's the key? Is it Malcano blitzes? Is it Harrison Smith a little bit more? What do you think they need to try to sack Goff a couple times?
Well, we know life is easier when Van Ginkel and Grenard and then hopefully a dosage of Dallas Turner get home organically. That makes everything easier, but it probably won't happen habitually against the Lions. So I think a mixture. I think getting Ivan Pace activated as a pass rusher more so than he usually does. That's one of the things he's really good at. I think that can be the special sauce. When I think about this matchup on defense, I keep coming back to one word, and that is containment. I think if you can hold the Lions to 24 points, then it becomes a matter of how many more after that can you keep them to. I'm using all kinds of NBA examples right now. When an NBA game, when the Lakers game ends, and you see LeBron James has 20 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, you say, what a shitty game. What's wrong with him? When Cam Reddish, Dalton Connect has that stat line, we're like, yes, we finally have somebody that's good, baby. So in that vein, I know the Lions are going to score 24 points. But how many more after that? So it's almost in your mind as a fan or a writer, you can see that that's going to happen, but it's whether or not they get to 34 or 44 is going to determine the ball game. So I don't know if either, like you said, organic pressure it should be able to get home to some extent because we have 2 fantastic Pro Bowl worthy edge rushers. But I think in a game this important that Brian Flores will get up to his old tricks, and that is blitzing, with the house at times. I think when you get kind of, back to the corner like they might be, you rely, you still got your fastball or you got your uppercut. I think we'll see blitz packages out the wazoo if they can't get home as is. And yeah, I'm just, for some reason I've selected 24 points as the magic number. If the Vikings can get to 27, maybe that's good enough. But yeah, I just don't expect the Lions to be contained all the way. So it is about containment, and 24 points is my cutoff.
So this is my favorite matchup going into this game, and I want your guys' not really takes. I just want to show off. This is my show and tell that I'm bringing to you as 2 of my favorite Vikings fans that I know. You know who has a better win percentage? I don't know really how to phrase it. Like the Kevin O'Connell win the turnover battle, that win percentage is like Dustin was saying earlier. That's insane. Like it's 1 loss and a ton of wins. You know who has a better win percentage? The Vikings when Blake Cashman plays, because we've never lost. So that is my favorite thing. They have a Amon-Ra who eats over the middle, constantly just makes his hay over the middle. They're doing, hook and ladders with him off of slants while he's going over the middle. Cashman coming in, do you think, and I know it's linebacker versus, number 1 receiver, so that's not necessarily a matchup that you always think about. Do you think the Vikings relying a little bit on zone, Cashman will be able to not erase Amon-Ra St. Brown, but limit Amon-Ra St. Brown and maybe get a pass break up. Oh, like Janik was saying, force Jared Goff to make a bad throw. Janik, do you think Cashman will play a big role in this game?
Oh, he always does. His skill set is so wide. He can do everything. He can cover. He can blitz. He can stop the run, and that's why he's important. But also, he's getting his teammates lined up. He's getting the play calls from Brian Flores, and he's telling his teammates what to do. And then, opponent is changing the play call. Oh, suddenly a different formation. Let's do this audible and that audible, and that's where he helps the most. And that's where Vikings missed him in the 2 games they lost. There's no doubt about it.
Dustin, what do you think?
Yeah, I remember when we started that Cashman narrative right in its infancy. We're like, hey, man, this guy is the god of the defense. And I was like, I don't know if that's how it works. But those people might have been right because the record is flawless without him. Yeah, I think he can be a disruptor. It kind of just folds right into my containment. We should view Amon-Ra like the Lions fans or defense view Jefferson, that if we keep Amon-Ra to 75 yards, that's a good game. And I think Cashman can help with that, but he's not going to. We're not there yet after the competitive rebuild. We don't have absolute shutdown corners. We have guys that are paid to kind of slow them down. So I think Amon-Ra can be limited, and then Cashman can help. But I'm pretty sure win, lose, or draw that Amon-Ra is going to end up with at least 75 yards and realistically probably closer to the 100 number. If you play fantasy football, anytime a receiver is going against the Vikings in whatever fantasy app you use, the Vikings always rank 32nd. And there's a reason for that. It's because they let wide receivers eat. That's one of the only bad parts of the defense.
Yeah, I think that it is fitting, though, that you say, like, I like this containment thing, because it is. The Lions are a bomb. They are a grenade, and it is like, how do we just make it to where it doesn't kill everyone? Like, how do we save the civilian? And it turns into that old, like, what is it, Captain America, where it's like, somebody just jump on the grenade and take the bullet and save everybody's life. How do we contain this team from being 38 points, Amon-Ra, $175, Jameson Williams, 120, 3 touchdowns, on 3 catches? Like, how do we just bring everybody's stats down? They're still going to look good. Everyone will still be able to talk. Oh, my daughter is upset. Everyone will still be able to talk about how good the Lions are come Monday morning. But how do the Vikings just contain them and get a little bit ahead of them? Gentlemen, let's do score predictions. We do a thing on this show called Game Balls, where we hand out honorary game balls in honor of Will, who was unable to be here. Let me pull his up. Will has this as a 34-35 loss for the Vikings, so a single point, and he has his game ball going to Ivan Pace. I have the offense, and I was going to do a bit on the show. Well, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Miracle, about the Miracle on Ice hockey team. I was going to read the entire Kurt Russell speech that he gave before that game, but replace all of the parts about the Soviets with the Lions, because, there's one part where he says, I'm tired of hearing how good a team the Soviets have, and I'm like, I'm tired of hearing how good the Lions are. The Vikings are damn good, man. So, look, for political reasons, I picked us to lose this game 66-7. That's because I'm down big in the points, that whole thing. So for political reasons, that I do think the Vikings lose this one. I think it's going to be a close game in all reality, but I would love nothing more than to see, and the way that game balls work for me anyway, if I give a game ball and a loss, has to be the reason we won. Sam Darnold has to come out here and just absolutely go berserk. I mean, he has to go bananas. He has to look like Peyton in his prime. Just 5 touchdowns, slinging it to anybody that gets even a fraction of an inch open. I'm not saying Jefferson needs to have 200, but Jefferson needs to be pushing 100. Addison needs to be at 100. Hawkinson needs to be at Naylor. He needs to have a 400-yard day, in my opinion, and play damn near perfect, because I think this is going to be a shootout, and I don't foresee the Vikings getting pressure on Goff. And Goff will dice you up if you don't get pressure on him. So I see this being another last-second field goal, similar to the first game, playing out almost identical. But I think the Lions take the 1 seed. The Vikings have to become road warriors, and we'll see what who and how they play come wild card weekend. Dustin, I will pass it to you.
Sure. So the way that I have looked at this since Sunday night, it's always a fun drive home when the Vikings win 4 hours from Minneapolis to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. The way that I've looked at this, because I think they are evenly matched the way they're playing right now. The Lions indeed have a better roster when it's in its purest form, but it's injury ravaged like none other. The way that I see this one is it more likely that the team that we and the world thought was going to go 7-10 wins on the road to get the number 1 seed, or is it more likely the team that the world thought was going to be in the Super Bowl wins at home? And the way that I keep coming back to it is that it would make more sense if the Lions took care of business in their building, and I think that they will, 30-27. But one of my favorite things about this is, even though we'll be melancholy and probably quiet for an hour or two after, maybe even longer, we can pull ourselves up immediately because we're not eliminated. Like, we just spent all of this emotion in these last 6 days at that point thinking about, we want to get the number 1 seed. Normally when we have those stakes, we're like, well, that's it. Now we got to wait 9 months until football happens again. We don't have that this time. You can unfortunately lose, but that can be your motivating factor to go beat the Buccaneers' ass, 5, 6, 7 days later. So I think the Lions have a little bit more destiny on their side to get home field advantage. If this was at US Bank Stadium, I would pick the exact opposite score and pick the Vikings 30-27. But in their building, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt with the hope that we will see them in the NFC Championship, 3 weeks from that game. So regrettably, I'm taking the Lions by 3.
I love the analysis. I also want to point out, there's no natural time for me to do this. I busted out the Teddy jersey, since Teddy is now the backup in Detroit. Didn't get a chance to bring that up. I don't really want to see Jared Goff get hurt and Teddy come in, so I hope we don't see Teddy. But I did break out the Teddy jersey for the show. Wanted to throw that in really quickly.
I thought it was Mekhi Blackman.
No, it is not. It is Theodore Bridgewater. Janik, let's go to you. How do you see this game playing out, and what's your score prediction?
So, entering last game against Green Bay, I feared the Green Bay game. I was really scared we could lose this game, but I was pretty confident we could beat Detroit. And I'm gonna stick to this. I'm going to pick Minnesota to win 35-32. Because I just think Detroit's defense is in a state that's it looks like a one and done defense when you watch them on TV. It looks like someone who's just getting blown out in the playoffs. And Vikings are a good football team. You can't just play one phase and expect to win against a good football team. In addition to that, Kevin O'Connell is due to beat the Lions. How many straight is it? Like 5 straight, I think.
4
straight. It's time the Vikings finally win a game against them. My game ball, I want to give that speech real quick. My game ball will go to TJ Hawkinson because he still has not scored a touchdown since his return, and he is due to score one. In addition to that, he has to fight his own demons. He got hurt against Detroit. It's his former team. He has to go against Kirby Joseph again. Kirby Joseph is going to hit him, and he knows that. Everyone who has gotten hurt in his past playing sports and going through rehab knows that's a shitty time, and you think about the play you got hurt all the damn time. And so I think he's going to have a huge game.
I want to point out, if any Lions fans stumble across this is strictly a joke. Don't yell at me or insult my family. But would be kind of funny if Kobe Joseph came down and run support and TJ Hawkinson did the Tucker Kraft to Pat Jones thing where he took his knee and it was like, knee for a knee, and it all came full circle or whatever. But no, obviously I'm not rooting for injury, but Dustin, we did not get a game ball prediction. If the Vikings are out to pull this one out, and you don't have to go either side of the ball, but who do you think needs to have like that, or who do you think would have that play, that moment where it's like, that was why we won. Here's the game ball. Maybe it's not just a moment. Maybe it's a performance. But if you had to give out a game ball to change the tide, who would it be?
Well, if we operate under the pretense that Sam Darnold's going to be just fine, and we're sick of him just being the guy because he's so reclaimed, I would say Aaron Jones. If he gets 20, 25, 30 touches, and he's the primary back, even though he's a little banged up, and he ends up having those 100 rushing yards, maybe a touchdown. I can't, and this is going to talk about this a lot come free agency and the draft time. The Vikings offense can be unbeatable if they have a running back who is a top 3 back. And that's why the San Francisco 49ers invested in CMC a couple years ago. So I will say Aaron Jones, if they do win, it's going to be him. I also pulled the numbers on a separate note. When the Vikings under Kevin O'Connell win or break even in the turnover battle, they are 30-2. And when they are underwater in the turnover battle, they are 4-14. The breaking even or winning turnover battle, the Vikings win 94% of the time. The rest of the NFL wins 65% of the time with the same parameter. So there is a wide variance between the way the Vikings play when they protect the ball versus the rest of the NFL.
I love it. Well, gentlemen, I will now allow each of you to give final thoughts. This does not have to be a Vikings. It doesn't even really have to be football if you don't want it to be, but we're kind of all in football mode. If anybody has any hot, Kyle Anthony Towns talking points as the basketball season continues to go, I know, that I'm not like a huge T-Wolves fan, being from Cincinnati, so don't know how I landed with the Vikings, but Janik, I'll let you go first. Any final things you want to get off your chest? Football, not football, anything like that?
Okay, I'm gonna stick to football. Regardless of how this game or the next few games go, well, at least 2 games go, it's been such a blast to watch this team play football. Every single Sunday, you turn on the TV, and regardless of expectations, they knock it out of the park and play just good football. And then you watch them celebrate and have fun, and KOC's locker room speeches, and no matter the result, feels like if it's 12-7 against Jacksonville, or if it's 42-21 against Atlanta, you have fun watching this team play. And that's what I'm really enjoying, and that's what I'm looking forward to for however long KOC is the head coach of Minnesota.
Yeah, it's been a special season. Dustin, final thoughts?
Yeah, my final thoughts are, no matter what happens Sunday, I believe that the Lions will eventually get got, probably by the Eagles. If the NFC Championship does not involve the Vikings, and it probably involves the Eagles and the Lions, I feel confident the Eagles will win that game, probably just because they're healthier and their trenches are slightly better. Without Aiden Hutchinson, the Lions' defensive front isn't quite as snazzy as the Eagles. And on the AFC side, I really thought the Ravens had the juice last year in the playoffs to get it done, and they wildly disappointed me when they had everything in their favor. Home field advantage, the Chiefs were pedestrian for the entire season. So I would love to be the guy this year that says, all right, my prediction was a year wrong. The Ravens can do it this year. But I told myself I'm not picking against the Chiefs again because they coasted through the entire season last year, and they've done the exact same thing this year with even better record. So my caveat is I do believe the Ravens have the roster construction and the juice to get to the Super Bowl, but the Chiefs are just so strange that it feels like this is the way they want it. They want it just to be, we'll figure it out when we get to the postseason. And usually you can't get away with that, but I think the Chiefs can.
So I think I know the answer to this question. Dustin, who do you have winning? Right now, just have to give me one name. Who do you think will win the Super Bowl?
Chiefs over Eagles is what I'm picking. I know that's a really boring Super Bowl because we just have the same Super Bowl every year. I will say, I also told Janik this a week ago because before the Chiefs beat the Steelers pretty handily, every one of these games, they're barely getting by. What happens if they play the Bills or they play the Ravens and they just get their ass spanked? It finally catches up to them. You know how we stared at DVOA all year in 2022 and we're like, how are we ranked 27th? Stir, we're 11-2. This metric says we're the 6th worst team in football. The Chiefs aren't quite that low on DVOA, but the way that they have played, they are the type of team that where we say, wait for the playoffs, somebody's going to knock your teeth out. And what if that happens? What if there is a team that finally jumps on them, gets up 27-0, and even the great Mahomes can't come back on that? I want to plant that seed because usually that shit happens to a team who keeps scooting by in the regular season.
I love it. Janik, who do you have winning the Super Bowl this year?
Oh man. So let's see. From the AFC, I think the Bills make the Super Bowl this year. Josh Allen has been absolutely incredible every time he's playing the Chiefs, and then they lose somehow because his defense can keep them out of field goal range in like 13 seconds, or because Diggs drops the best pass I've ever seen in the final minute or whatever that was. So I think the Bills are finally getting there. And from the NFC, if I had to bet, I would probably pick the Eagles because they are just the best football team and from both sides of the ball in the NFC. And then in the Super Bowl, I trust Josh Allen more than Jalen Hurts, so that would be my pick. So I'm gonna say Buffalo.
Buffalo gets the first Super Bowl in Yannick's prediction. I am going to, because I will die on this hill. I'll answer that question with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because I picked them before the season. So I'm sticking to them. I'm not backing down. Baker Mayfield does it somehow in this NFC. With all of these teams that are just juggernauts, Baker Mayfield just comes in and just full Attack on Titan, doesn't care how good your defense is. F you, I have Mike Evans in a dream. So I'll stick to that. I think the Eagles and the Bills are my two favorites in either conference, though, legitimately. But like I said, the Vikings have that chance. My final thoughts, and then I'll take us home. Will might have said not to talk about it, like, as a show. He can't touch my final thoughts. Sam Darnold needs to be back next season, and I think there's a real conversation, depending on how these next 2-3 weeks go, that we have, like, hey, the Giants are calling about McCarthy. I'm not saying you definitely do it, but you have the conversation. You have the conversations. I think that it is worth a conversation. You can talk about anything you want. You can talk about trading Jefferson. It's 12 first-round picks. You want to pay it? No? Okay, good conversation. I think you have those conversations. I think it would be unhealthy not, but I do think Darnold needs to be back next season. Although, if the Giants want to give us the 5th pick for Sam Darnold, I'm okay with that as well. I'll say that much. So that's kind of where I'm at. Each week, 6 weeks ago, it was, hey, Sam, I don't know that he should be back. Probably a tag and trade, move on. And every week, I get in my car to go home from watching the game with my wife, and I look at her, and I'm like, I've never been this happy with my quarterback in my life, I don't think. Even the Case Keenum, but 5 days, I was like, well, this has an expiration date. This is this guy's 27 years old, and he looks like one of the best, and this is kind of different, because the Vikings never have one of the best. They usually just are pretty good, or they get by, and they have really good other spots. So for him to be as good as he's been, it's been impressive. But I hate that we don't have the time for us to talk about this as a full show. I would love to have you guys on, especially whether it's 3 games from now, 2 games, 8 games, or 5 games, whatever it ends up being, whenever the season is over. I would love to have the Sam Darnold conversation with you guys on the show. But I think Will is burnt out on it because we've talked about it a lot the last few weeks, as every Viking show has. Find Dustin and Janik occasionally as well. I'm not positive on the actual schedule. They are on Vikes now, as well as VikingsTerritory.com, and occasionally PurplePTSD.com. Check them out on both of those. And let's see, Dustin, the Twitter handle?
At Dust Baker.
At Dust Baker. Janik, the Twitter handle?
At Janik Eckardt, but my name is probably somewhere on the screen or whatever.
There you go. Oh well, no,
So
it's not.
it's just my name. JANIKECKRARDT. For those who really want to find me.
Absolutely. You should. I mean, look, you guys put out really good content. Like I said, I love your guys' content. I love everything you guys do. Follow the show at LTB Vikings, and most importantly, cheer for the Vikings, buy tickets, go to Detroit. I'm not going to because I don't have any money, but go buy tickets and go flood that stadium. And just, I was looking at tickets, it's like $1,000, man. I mean, like it's buku expensive. So if you have the money, go get the tickets, buy the Lions fans tickets, and make that a Vikings home game for them. We need all the help we can get. I've been Jelton, he's been Dustin, he's been Janik. I will leave you as always with Skull.
Skull, baby.